We're back on the road. It's an episode of MPTV, one of the first I've done in person in a while. Kris, we did the podcast on the road for 2 years. Then I went to the studio, and this year I've done a couple on the road, but I had to come see you and talk to you about the great place you got going here. So first, tell the audience who you are, what your restaurant is, a little about yourself.
So I'm Kris Schoenberger. I'm the owner of BBQ'd Productions. I have 3 locations. I have one in Third Lake, Illinois, Lake Zurich, Illinois, and Kenosha, Wisconsin.
So you started in this location.
Started here.
2014?
2014. We started here in Third Lake. It was a little 40-seat restaurant. We had, I think, 7, 8 bar stools. Obviously, the bar is much bigger now. We expanded 4 different times here. And then had the patio went out. We made that an outdoor room that we can close off and do 40 people in there. Made the kitchen bigger, and then finally we bought our second location, which we bought.
Yep.
That was Lake Zurich, which was 2017 we opened there.
And you learned a tough lesson on that patio, so we'll talk about that.
Yep. So 2017 bought that, and then shortly after that one, I bought Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And that took me 3 years to get that open, and we opened that in December of 2020.
Okay, and you opened that with some bad timing.
Very bad timing.
So some people had just the pandemic.
Yep.
You had pandemic and riots, but we'll talk about that. So today I want to talk about a couple things. Number one, I want to talk about sauce, branding, because you and I have been talking about that. Yeah. I want to talk about number 2, you having coaches, because that's how you found me.
Yeah.
And we got to know each other.
Yep.
Was through Ann and also through David Scott Peters.
Yep.
And then I also want to talk about vacation and hiring, because you saw the post I made and had some questions about it.
Yeah.
So first, let's dig into coaching, because I found my first business coach at this current profession back in 2016, a guy named Billy Jean Shaw, and it was foreign to me because I had done it early in my 20s and we had our boat dealership, but about 10 years, I didn't read enough, I didn't study enough content online, and I didn't have somebody that had already been on the path I'm going on to say, hey, you're making these screw ups. I hired Billy Jean. Since then, I've had 4 coaches. I have 1 right now. Why do you have a business coach? Like, you've got David Scott Peters, but you also have Ann, correct?
Yeah, and I also had Fred Langley as well.
Yeah.
You know, so like for me, I don't know what I don't know. You know, and so even as, you know, a business owner, there's a lot of things I don't know. You know, like I don't drink. I'm not a drinker. I don't know a lot about alcohol. You know, and when I started this business, you know, and I didn't know anything. You know, I didn't even know how to cut a brisket. So I have found that as you go, you need someone there who's constantly like poking the bear.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm one of those people that I love referrals. I love being referred to people, and I keep that network going. And as long as I can keep, you know, that water kind of trickling downhill, if I keep looking for the next best thing, you know, and I always was told that you surround yourself with the people that you want to be like.
Okay.
You know, and so I even teach that to my employees too. And it's like, you know, some of these kids that are younger, you know, that are still hanging around the kids that are going out and doing stupid things. And, you know, that's what your life is going to be like. And, you know, people don't realize, even kids these days, you're eventually going to grow up.
Yep.
You know, you're eventually going to become, hopefully, a parent. You're eventually going to become a grandparent. And when you get to that point in your life and you look back, you got to look back and say, did I do everything the right way? Yeah. And so even me as a business owner, it's like, as long as I'm constantly moving forward, that's progression and that's success. And so I find that as when you get coaching or you get coaches and you find people that you like I said, our first call that I had with you, I instantly saw, like within a matter of less than 2 minutes, that your vision of your company is the same vision as me and my company. Yeah. And so when I can feel that vibe, and same thing with David. Like when I met David, within 5 minutes of listening to him talk, I was like, this guy knows his shit. Yep. And I was like, I'm going to, you know, follow him. And I remember I went to a 3-day seminar from David out in Arizona. And
isn't it freaking hot out there though?
It is, you know, but I went and saw him in Vegas at the NRA show.
Yep.
Not NRA, I'm sorry, Bar Nightclub.
Yep.
And saw him out there, and I'm like, this guy is a good talker, and he is. I mean, I can listen to that guy talk about ice to Eskimos, you know. And then I went to his 3-day class, and the first day, I mean, he had me in tears because I was just like, this guy is just so good and so passionate about what he does that it's like it was a sign from up above that I needed to meet him.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for my coaches. And I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for, you know, people like David and people like Ann and people like Fred. And, you know, it's like my first accountant was a good friend of mine. And, David and Fred at the time were telling me, you're going to eventually need a new accountant. Your accountant's not doing it. And so the day that I fired my accountant and I went to Ann, I was like nervous. I was like, how the hell am I going to do this? My accountant was local. It was like 5 minutes away. And now Ann is in Boston. I'm like, how the hell am I going to do, 1,500 miles away an accountant? And I'll tell you what, it was the best thing I ever did. And everything that they've taught me and everything that they've said, like, hey, these things that are going to happen, they can forecast the future that I can't. And having a coach is probably, I would say, up there with David Scott Peters' 101s of being a business owner of recipe costing cards and budgets. That would be number 3.
Yeah. It's a key element, because the one thing you said earlier that I want to talk about that a lot of people don't realize, as a restaurant owner, most restaurant owners that I deal with, that I talk to, work in the business. They're on the schedule as a bartender, as a server, as a manager that day. They're not working on it.
Yeah.
And by working in it, the people they're dealing with all day long are their employees. And no knock against the employees. If the person you're talking to every day, you're coming to the restaurant, you're going home at night, and the person you're spending the most time with every week are people that are your employees, you're not going to the next level.
Yeah.
Like Damon John always talks about, I don't know if you follow Damon or not, but he says, if I'm the richest guy in the room, I need to leave.
Yep.
And so I kind of look at myself the same way, that, yes, I love all my employees, but I've got 5 or 10 people I talk to on a daily basis that aren't my employees, that are higher level than me, that I'm like, hey, how can I get ahead?
Yeah.
How can I get to the next level? And that's one thing I can appreciate about you, because you've done it. Like, we have clients that hire us where they're, quote unquote, outsourced marketing department. A lot of them have a hard time going, oh, well, I know how to make Facebook posts, I know how to do this. I'm like, there's 99 other things.
Yep.
Like we talked about the podcast last night and unpacking how to create a podcast and who to talk to on it. But there's higher level things you need to be doing, especially if you want to outpace the market. Because that's one thing. I had a guy the other day tell me that, oh, I don't market, I don't advertise. And I said, dude, that's pretty sad that that's your badge of honor.
Yeah.
That you don't market. I'm like, that you need to market, right? You need to be great at marketing and selling your food, your service, your atmosphere, your team, so that you have plenty of employees lining up to work for you, so that you retain your employees, but also that your sales outpace the economy. Mm-hmm. Because if you're getting beat by inflation, you're a couple years from out of business.
And one of the things that I always live by too, and I always teach this to my managers, it starts with me and it goes down to them. But I don't know what the guy is called, but the guy in the orchestra that goes like this?
Yeah. The conductor?
The conductor. And I always tell my managers, as you manage, you need to be the conductor. Yeah. And if the tuba player passes out, you don't see the conductor going over to play the tuba. Yeah. You got to bring this guy up, bring this guy down and stuff like that. And that's what it's like being a manager / owner. It's different levels though. So like as a manager, whether it's a kitchen manager and it's a Friday night and shit's hitting the floor, and all of a sudden the fry guy, passes out, drag his ass out the way and move some people around. But the worst place thing that a kitchen manager does is go and start frying fries.
Oh, yeah.
There's no beautiful music coming out. There's no food coming out. And as an owner, it's the same thing. Like the minute that I realized that, like, hey, like you said, like you can't be in there pouring the drinks and washing dishes. Like my favorite position in the kitchen, in the restaurant, is washing dishes. And it took everything in me to stop doing that because I enjoy it. I really do.
Is it like a stress factor that you can't hear anything, so you can just kind of easy?
It's for me, especially in barbecue. Like you get a pan that's covered and it's instant satisfaction.
It's like pressure washing.
Yeah, it's like exactly pressure washing, but just it's like instant satisfaction. And so even to this day, like I walk into a restaurant and the first thing I do is I go right to the dish pit, and like my manager's like, get out of here. But it's like the conductor cannot do this, make music happen and play the music. Just like if you're a fire chief. A fire chief can't put the fire out and tell the guys where to go at the same exact time.
Or the great analogy too is a football coach.
Look
at the Patriots and Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Like Bill Belichick never took a snap, never passed anything. Tom Brady, I don't think ever caught his own pass, never handed the ball off to himself and ran, never was the defense.
And you got to trust too.
Yeah.
You got to trust your people. You got to trust that, and so even as the years have gone on, and now that we're going into our 6th location in 8 years, I've learned that your staff is everything. Yep. And so this is no longer, we talked about this yesterday a little bit, this is no longer about me, it's about us. And, I always tell my staff, when I'm in the restaurant, we're on the same team. Yep. We're on the same level. I've staff that have been with me for a long time know that when we're in, a Friday night getting our, stuff kicked in.
Yeah, getting your teeth kicked in.
Teeth kicked in. They can say, hey, go do this, go do that, because we're on that same team. Like, I created the entity, but we make the entity breathe together. You know, and so if I fail, we all fail. If you fail, I fail. Yep. So, you know, it's a level playing field, but really making sure that, and we talked about this, you know, yesterday a little bit about, you know, my mom's legacy, and just really making sure that we live through her of what she would have done, and really just making that empire grow together as a family.
Okay, so we talk about family. Let's transition that to employees. You asked me a question, and asked the question again to me because you saw my now hiring post and you heard some things. What you asked a question off camera about vacation. What was your question? What is your thought process?
So I read your ad last night, and so again, we are very similar together. My ad that I have on Indeed that I run is very similar and unique. And I'll get to your question 1 second here, because I always say, if you have there's 2 jobs for every person that's wanting a job in America now. So if every single person's job said, now hiring, 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 are you looking for a job that's guaranteed not to suck? Now hiring, which one stands out to you? You know, so like that's the opening line of my ad. Are you looking for a job that's guaranteed not to suck? You know, and then it's like I go into about corny jokes, stuff like that. So you and I are very similar and very alike. And so the thing that caught my attention in your ad was the very first thing said 9 weeks of vacation. So again, it's that statement. It's like, holy shit, yes, that's what I want. Yep. Like, tell me more.
Yeah.
And I read yours, and I'm like, okay, there's got to be a catch. And like, I'm driving works for him. I'm talking to him about his ad. It's the first thing I asked you. How the hell do you do 9 weeks paid vacation?
So, a couple of things on that ad, and I'll answer the 9 weeks vacation in a second. Number one of my business consultants saw the ad, and in the ad, we'll put it on the screen on here, and we'll put a link wherever this is at. It talks about, you know, must be ready for a bunch of D's nuts jokes, and that's what she says. And I say things in there that put our personality. I hate somebody say, man, aren't you like scared to put that out? I said, no, because if somebody sees that ad and is offended, they're going to hear that in my 4 walls. I'm a dumbass. And so they're going to see the personality that me and a lot of my employees. So if they don't see that on the front end, they come in and they work, and a month later they're like, oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong place. Yeah. It's not a good fit.
And I'm sorry, just the last line, are you tired of these nuts jokes? Because I think we said it like 4 times like today.
Yeah, that's
what she said.
Yeah, we were walking by here, and I said, that's what she said, and you're like, oh my God. But no, you've got to showcase your personality so you get the right people. So on the vacation part, it all started with me in a unique manner years ago that I did unlimited vacation for my employees when I first started the company. With the first couple employees, we got 4, 5, 6. Because I was lazy. I didn't want to keep track of who were sick or gone. I'm like, you know what? I trust you know the culture. You know we run hard. You're going to do your job. Now, it's obviously different because I have professionals versus you've got all levels of employees at a restaurant. I get that. I'm not saying this is possible for a restaurant, but I had unlimited. And so employees took advantage of it. When we got to a certain size, people weren't taking vacation. And I could see the stress. I mean, you got a spouse and husband and wife, and they're not taking vacation. Like, they don't get away. They don't get to bond together. It hurts their marriage. It hurts their family. I grew up taking a lot of vacations. My mom and dad, my dad had an insurance company. My mom and dad did our whole life. And we went somewhere every month to almost every 2 months at the minimum. And I remember those trips. Yeah. And so that was important to me. And I always think you got to treat people how you'd want to be treated. And so when we were looking at expanding, when we expanded our staff, because now we're up to, I hired 2 people yesterday. We're at 52 people as of right now. And when I got to a certain point, employees weren't taking the vacation because they couldn't comprehend and digest unlimited. And they were like, we're always busy. I'm like, we're always going to, if we're not always busy as a marketing company, we suck as a marketing company. Yeah. I mean, we should be always busy. I said, so you got to take your vacation. So I came up with a plan. I said, okay, number one, Christmas and Thanksgiving are useless for us. Your business, they're tough. Yeah. They're brutal. Yep. For us, we don't want to bug you guys. Yeah. So I'm like, we're going to close those weeks. That way y'all can spend time, have fun. And then I looked at the other thing. I said, okay, personal time off. There's 2 weeks paid vacation and time off that you get to use however you want. And then the last component was mandatory. Every 10 weeks, you have a week off. No ifs, ands, or buts. I don't care if you're like one of my employees, well, I'm not going on vacation. I'm like, good. Spend time in your backyard. Yeah. Play PlayStation. Go hiking. And the one guy actually did go hiking for 5 days. And the one lady, Lisa, came back and she's like, you know, when you forced that week off, because she already had her vacation times planned. She was like, oh, I got 2 weeks holidays. I got 2 weeks here. Mm-hmm. When you forced me to take that week off, I was like, what am I going to do? And then like after the week was up, I was like, it was unbelievable. I worked around
And
the
no
house.
one's ever been forced to.
No, they've never been like, yeah.
Nobody in this world.
No, you got to take it.
Yeah.
So we made it, what we did was we split our company in two. And again, all these ideas aren't original. I got this at a business mastermind. Josh Nelson, a guy that I pay to be in a consulting company with him. I was at the event, and this guy I had been struggling with unlimited pay. How do we tweak it? And he was doing mandatory every 8 weeks, but they don't do Christmas and Thanksgiving. They don't do 2 weeks. It's just every 8 weeks, shake a week off. So we split our company into two, team one, team two. So team one is gone. We have a week between, team two goes. And so that was big. So for me, we have the 9 weeks is what it adds up to be. And then we have a 3 to 4 day weekend every month. So we had Memorial Day, Labor Day.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that came about was I love Thanksgiving. Like that Thursday, like by the time you get to Saturday morning, you're like, at least in my world, you're in the restaurant world.
Yeah.
Little different. In my world, in the business world, when I get to Saturday morning, I'm like, man, this is badass. Like, I've had 2 days off. I'm refreshed. Like, I got 2 more days till the phone's going to start ringing and emails and all this. And now, granted, I still work pretty much 365 days a year anyways, but I'm able to do it.
It's different when you're at home.
Yeah. But my employees, I said, what if we did a 3-day weekend every month? Because everybody loves Memorial Day. Everybody loves Labor Day. And so we had some of them we had to make up. Like in July, we were off National Root Beer Float Day because I like root beer. I saw you have Sprecher. I plan on tapping on one of those today. But I'm like, okay, I like root beer. So
Root beer float
there's a
day?
National Root Beer Float Day. We're taking the day off. And it was a Friday like 2 weeks ago, and we took off. And so it's been cool. But here's the big part. You mentioned Indeed. I have never posted a job ad anywhere outside of my business or personal Facebook page or LinkedIn. And then occasionally, like I have a 20,000 plus email list of people we know. I sent the email for now hiring to 274 of them. How did I come up with 274? I looked at our database because we segment it, and I picked the people that click everything. I'm like, this is either my mom and my dad or 272 other people.
Yeah.
If they're clicking this much stuff, they're either love what we do, they're a very good follower, or they're in need of information. And I'm like, they might have a spouse, like most of them restaurant owners.
Yeah.
They might have a spouse because this was a job that can be remote. They might have a spouse, they might have a kid, they might have an employee. I had a restaurant the other day who called me up and said, I've got a manager. I love him to death. He's an awesome manager. He wants to be in marketing for restaurants. How do I get him onto your staff and starting off, and then eventually he becomes full-time with you guys? He's like, I'm going to lose a good person, but his future's not here. He wants to do what you guys do.
Yeah.
And that came from that email. But I got 50, I think I'm up to, as of this morning, 50 applications. When I looked at it on the other night, there was like 37, of which 37 are application. I don't ask for a resume. I don't ask for your history. I ask your favorite color. I ask a couple questions. Why do you like the restaurant?
Are you looking for orange?
No.
Okay.
I want to see if they do the BS orange because it's MP's color, because I get that.
Yeah.
But I get some people that say, hey, sorry, orange isn't my favorite color, blue is, and here's why. Like the other day, the lady said blue is associated with this type of cancer, and my mom passed away from it, and so it's near and dear to me. When I see that, it's up to me now to respond to an email like with that in there.
And there's passion on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so the other aspect of like the now hiring, so I told somebody the other day, I said, everybody says nobody wants to work. And there was a guy, I did an interview with Jason Pfeiffer, the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine last week. And he talked about, he found a tweet where the guy's got the quotes from business owners going back 150 years. Every time there's a big blip in the economy, guess what business owners say? Nobody wants to work. It's hilarious. There's literally quotes in a paper from like the 1850s.
Yeah.
Somebody's saying, nobody wants to work. Well, no, it's nobody wants to work. Nobody is attracted to what you're offering right now.
Yep.
And so one of the reasons we get a lot of applications when I make that post on my Facebook page, people follow me. They see my personality. They see what we do. They see how we operate. And they're envious of it because they're boss. I got a text message yesterday. One of the things I put in place, I call our employees. I'm getting better at it. Call them on their birthday. I called one of our employees, started working 2 weeks ago, told her happy birthday yesterday. She texted her son, who also works for me, who texted me a picture of it. It's the first boss she's ever had. She's in her 50s. Ever call her and say happy birthday.
Yeah.
And so I try and showcase that stuff and be different.
Yeah.
But for me, when I put that 9 weeks, for example, I want to put something that nobody has ever thought possible.
Or seen.
Yeah. And they're like, what the hell? What do you mean 9 weeks? Like, I people like, is it a scale? Is there, what are you counting? Like, is there something double? I'm like, no, You get 9 full weeks off, plus you get a 3-4 day holiday weekend. So it's really about 11 weeks off when you count those. Because I want to have something that's really, really, really sticky. That when somebody's thinking about, hey, I like this job. Yeah, that's what she said.
Sorry. I knew there'd be one in there somewhere.
That's what she said. I like this job. I don't love, like, I'm not completely in love with everything, because you're not going to always love everything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure there's stuff my spouse, my wife's like, Jesus, man, this guy. You know, with 27 years, there's got to be something. She's like, geez, I wish I had this guy. But you know what? She's like, looks at the positives and the negative.
Yep.
And so I wanted to look at something that where people say they get a job offer that might be 20 grand more. And they go, well, that's 20 grand, but shit.
9 weeks.
Do I get 9? I get 4 weeks. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
And then we also, something we do different is we pay for the first, we $1,000 a year vacation credit. And I don't even know if I put this in the post. We do $1,000 one time a year vacation credit. We pay their vacation in exchange that when they go, let's say they're coming to this region. You're coming to the Kenosha for vacation, going to the lake. We have a form we have for prospecting restaurants. It's up to you before you leave to find 5 restaurants that look identical to our avatar, that look identical to Kris's BBQ'd Productions.
Yep.
And visit that restaurant and fill out this audit form. Are they collecting data inside the restaurant? They're auditing the restaurant's marketing. They research it. On their vacation, they do 5 of those. We pay for the food. They bring the receipts back. They get reimbursed. And then we give them $1,000. We buy their airfare, their hotel, whatever, up to that. So it's another perk that now it's $1,000 vacation. All I got to do is find 5, get with one of the sales team and go, hey, I'm going to Myrtle Beach. Find me 5 restaurants that you would love to talk to. Here they are. Cool, I'm going to go eat there. Oh, the company's paying for it.
They're going to be going out to eat anyways.
They're going out to eat anyways.
Yeah.
And so it's a way that we use as a perk that the company can write off because it's a business expense.
Yep.
And when I look at it, you know, if it's $1,000, let's just call it 50. So we have 52 employees. It's 52 grand we'll pay out in the next 12 months on that if we stay at the current level of our employees. That's 1.5 new clients. So 52 people go to 5 restaurants each. There's 250, 200, whatever that is, 260 restaurants.
It's worth it.
That all I need is 2 of them to be perfect fits and go, I need what you guys are offering at America's Best Restaurants. And we just covered the entire expense. And my employees got something they've never gotten.
Yep.
A vacation paid for. Tom, one of our guys, the other day, we booked his airfare and his lodging. He's going hiking in Colorado. So back to the vacation thing, and I'll wrap this part of it up. I want to talk about the sauce. There's a funny story there. The part I saw this was I saw a study a while back. The guy had a business in Tennessee, and he found that his turnover like 60%. It was a ridiculous turnover, which is probably similar to a lot of restaurants. And he found that one of the biggest things it was life stress, money. And one of the things that he found that could cure that kind of stress was vacation, time with your family, time with your wife, time somewhere fun. And so he came up with a policy where he had a mandatory week off every 2 months. No, it was every quarter, every quarter, because it was like, hey, they're always 2 months or so away from a week off. He then bought a place in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. They had 4 units on it and made it to where employees, they gave you $500 per diem to get there and back, and then that's paid for. You have to use it one of your trips per year. One of your 4 weeks off, over and above your normal PTO, you have to use the cabin.
Smart.
But what he found, he said the thing he found that was a huge issue was you got employee, you got a husband and a wife. You know, the husband works for you, the spouse works somewhere else. They each get 2 weeks time off each year. And the kids get sick, they've got this, they got that. My wife's taking a college recruiting visit with my son next week that they're going on. If she was working, have to take a day off work. By the time it gets around to taking a vacation, they don't have any time.
Yeah.
And so there's no damn vacation. Like, why the hell are you working? And that's what I looked at and said, I want to make sure my people always have time off. And there's times I take them with me. I go somewhere every month typically, and I'll take employees with me that may or may not have to go. Like I'm flying to History Channel this week to film something on the History Channel up in New York. There's a store there called B&H Electronics, which the photographers love. Well, David, my marketing director, is driving over from Philly to meet me. But then Max, one of my videographers I'm taking, I don't necessarily have to have him film. It's a bonus. But I knew he would love going to New York and seeing the B&H store. So that's like cool. A little micro. So I think that's the shit that makes you sticky and like other restaurants can't compete with, other businesses can't compete with.
Yeah, and I think even like you know, you mentioned this a little bit ago, like even as a restaurant owner, like some of the things that are hard, you know, because it's a little different. But like this past year was our first year that we closed the day before Christmas, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And we closed on Thanksgiving. So in the years prior, Thanksgiving was my #1 day in sales. So not this past year, but the year before, so that would have been, what, 2020. We did $65,000 in sales on Thanksgiving Day. So
Damn.
last year, I told my guys, I'm like, hey, I want to close on Thanksgiving Day. They're like, whoa. That's our busiest day of the year. And I'm like, I want to close. It's the most busiest day, but it's the highest stressful day. Yeah. I said, but we're going to do the same exact thing that we did, but we're going to do it on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And no joke, we closed last year on Thanksgiving Day. We said, hey, you got to pick up all your meals ahead of time. We'll give it to you, turkey's vacuum sealed, all the other stuff. We'll give you reheat instructions. We did $2,000 more in sales than we did the year prior, and we were closed on Thanksgiving.
And you had happier employees.
Happier employees, and I'll tell you what, I was happier.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I woke up on Thanksgiving morning. That's usually the morning, we're waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get here. We got 200 and something turkeys coming off the smokers. And I woke up, and my wife looked at me, and she's like, you okay? And I'm like, I don't know what to do. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's Thanksgiving, and I'm watching the parade.
That's awesome.
It was awesome.
Good
so, I hear you say some of these things. Like, yes, I may not be able to do everything that you do, but it definitely makes my brain think and I already thought that I do a good job anyways. You know what I'm saying? We have a lot of perks that we have. We do some different vacations too with some of our staff. Like our managers will take them, to some of the trainings that we do with Fred and David, and so some of those things, we'll bring them along. We do a manager dinners out, company outings. We did a thing at my house a couple weeks ago. So I already do a few things, but now it's what more can I do? Yeah. And so it's got my brain thinking, and it can even be stuff that's outside the box. Yeah. So it's I think it is important because you mentioned about feelings and how people feel, and the D's nuts jokes and stuff like that, and it's one of my bartenders, Andrea, I don't even know that her name was Andrea until I did her payroll the other day, because I always call her Dork and she calls me Doofus. But that's just, and literally we'll be on a Friday night and she'll be like, hey, Doofus, go give me a bottle of Jack. All right, Dork. And the customers are looking at us like, what the hell? But it's just how we've been since day one. Then she called me the other day. We had a little spiff about something, and she called my name Kris, and I'm like, oh, she's pissed. Oh, she's pissed. So then I was like, Andrea?
New phone, don't know him.
Yeah. But again, I think even as all restaurant owners, people want to feel appreciated. Yep. People don't want to just go to a job anymore for 9 to 5. There's a lot more to it nowadays than just, hey, give me a paycheck. There's got to be more. And so it makes me think, and makes others probably should think about what they can be to be different.
And the other aspect behind all this too is, and you're going to learn this because you're a client of ours, and you're going to be in pretty soon, in the next couple months, into the modules of video storytelling, podcasts, how to personalize your brand, how to over brand. Yeah. I've got a ring that's my MP.
I thought the shoes were.
Yeah. So
I thought the shoes were over the top.
Yeah. So how to over brand, because what that does is that makes it to where I don't have to go to Indeed. I go to Facebook and post it, and I've got 50. I have a friend the other day who makes $500,000. Like, dude, I'm trying to figure out. He goes, I'm not joking. I was doing the math on how much cut I would be willing to take to come work beside you with your team, with a growing company, and those perks.
Yeah.
But that all comes from showcasing it through video, and we'll get to that. So the last thing I want to talk about, the sauce. So I love the fact that you're getting there branding-wise. I love, you got the hat, you got the shirt. We got to get some stuff on the truck. Yep. We got to get the car going. You got the barbecue sauce.
I was already looking online for Sprinter Vans last night.
Yeah, you got the shirts. You got some great stuff. I love this one. It was vegetarian and Indian word for bad hunter. Talk about the branding, and then tell them about the sauce, why you decided to do that.
For me, again, to an extent of a little bit of you, even last night, we were sitting at Kenosha, and one of my friends was there, the guys, Frank and Shannon, you're talking to, like, hey, we saw this shirt idea, and so people are constantly giving me shirt ideas. We started out with a couple, and I can't even tell you how many we got now. I think we got probably 10, 12 shirt designs, and there's a place out in Woodstock, and what they do is they take their 1 or 2 star reviews and they put them on their shirts.
That's awesome. Worst burger ever. Yeah. Thank you.
And they put the person's name. And if anyone would do that, that'd be me.
Yeah.
It's like I'm as dorky and quirky as they come. Kind of have a little bit of personality like you do and stuff like that. So it's so I'm not always politically correct with everything. And so, if you see me online and stuff like that, I can be sometimes a smart ass. Yeah. And then I'll never be here, and the owner's a smart ass. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly who I am. So the shirt ideas, you know, they're funny, they're quirky, it offends people, but like I've learned that no matter what you say or do, I could say, hey, I like Carolina barbecue, and somebody will be like, I'm offended because you called Carolina barbecue, and it's like, so I just do me.
Yep.
You know, I literally do me. I do what feels right. I get that I'm not going to be for everybody, and that's okay. Like, you know, I have a good following of customers. We call them guests. You know, but our shirt ideas, you know, the way that we look, we want to, you know, be funny. We have another one, and there's some people who like to wear it. There's some people who don't like to wear it, but it's right across the chest. It's this nice rack.
Yeah.
But it's got a rack of ribs underneath it, you know, and it's like, I have some girls that like, no, I want that shirt.
Oh, you ought to see Avery at Little Italy Pizza, one of our clients in Columbus. He's a DSP client. He's got a shirt that says something about his balls in your mouth, and it says giant meatballs. And when I first saw it, I was like, that's close for me, but I mean, it's him.
And I tell you what, a lot of places, they got some great shirt ideas.
Yeah.
You know, a good friend who's in the Fred group, the group with Fred.
Yeah, Fred.
They have a pizza restaurant, and it's their shirt says legalize marinara. You know, so I think shirtways are definitely funny, especially good conversation piece to speak about. You know, our barbecue sauces. Yeah. You know, we started doing the barbecue sauces probably about a year after we opened. The thing that was important for me was consistency. Okay. You know, we were making our sauces from scratch in the restaurant, and so as business started getting more and more, like our first year in business, we did $2.7 million in revenue. Our first year.
Damn.
Never
2.7?
2.7.
And you were brand new in the restaurant.
Brand new, never did this before, you know, and so we were making barbecue sauce by hand in the kitchen. And so at the time when we first started, I think we only had maybe 2 or 3. I can't remember exactly because it's been so long. But we've added kind of what we have now. We're at 6. I'm already working on the next, you know, thing. I'm always thinking about the next big thing, you know. But for me, it's all about now. It's about the brand. It's about the label. You know, this was something that it's like, you know, seeing my logo on this, and even now, like if you look now compared to this logo here, my logo has changed.
Yeah, it's tweaked a little.
But this is the original.
Yep.
And so, you know, I've thought, like, do I change it? But this is what people know. Yep. And so for me, it's not a matter of people asking, oh, hey, are you ever going to put this in stores? Hell no. You know, that is a whole new ball of wax, and that's a tough game to compete with. But for me, it's our customers, it's the people that come in here, you know, when we go do a catering order, we drop off these, it looks more professional, and it's like, if you look like a successful company, you're going to be successful.
I was telling the ideas I've got in that you're going to get to, like we've got 51 what I call blue ocean ideas that you're a couple months into work with
blue ocean, red ocean.
That are massive, and the one of them's a book. It's like write a book. Like for me, if I'm you, write a book about your mom. Write a book about your mom, how it impacted you, how it impacted this restaurant. How many restaurants you walked in the front door, there's a book from the owner?
Yeah.
Not many.
No.
Now it separates you. It gives you something different. The barbecue sauce. How many restaurants? I've been to a lot of restaurants with America's Best Restaurants. Thousands. I bet 1 out of every 20 barbecue places I go to have their own sauce. It's not hard. But it's
or
a
they
great,
do and they don't bottle and it's in
a
plastic
exactly.
You know,
it's not done,
deli container.
not done like this.
Yes.
So I'm going to give you a funny story and ask a question. Do you own the small batch and large batch recipe for this, or is it a co-packer?
I own it.
You own it. Double check and make sure. So you ever heard of Quaker Steak and Lube, the wing brand?
Yeah.
So they were a client of ours, a couple locations for a while, and they got into I don't know if it's a dispute, but they wanted to switch their sauce company. And so they went to switch. This is back around like 2013 or 14. They went to switch to a new sauce company, and the old sauce company is like, we own the large batch recipes. Excuse me? Well, yeah, when you hired us, you gave us the recipe for like this much. Yeah. We turned it into the one for 1,000, whatever, big gallons.
Small batch versus large batch. Okay.
They own the recipe, and so Quaker Steak had to they had already severed the relationship, burnt the bridge.
Yeah.
And so when they went to their new place, they had to recreate the sauces. And it's like for that year, the medium, their Buckeye barbecue is my jam. Tasted a little like it would change. They finally got it down. But I remember the guy saying, man, we hired them. It's like us. You hired us to help you build a restaurant, a database. It's your database.
Yeah.
If you tell me to get the hell out in a couple of years, we'll give it to you. They told this sauce company, hey, here's our sauce. Make it for us in large quantities. Cool. They didn't look at the fine print that they didn't own the recipe of the large batch.
Yeah, you know, and for me, like going back to that, the people that we partner with or the people that we, connect with and, use in our business model, they are the reason why we are where we are.
Yep.
And so, when we met the company that did our sauces, they were a large company. I mean, they did a large manufacturing portion for Ken's dressings,
Yep.
like that, Sweet Baby Ray's. And when we went to them, they were like, oh, hey, we can do this for you, but you have to order X amount by this much. And I'm like, well, hey, man, I'm only one restaurant, blah, blah, blah. And so, they fell in love with our story. And so they ultimately started helping us out and producing that large quantity, but holding it for me
Nice.
and letting me buy.
Work through it.
Yeah, and so now they're at a point where they're so large. They've opened another location and they're doing, ridiculous amounts of sauce. And now our production has obviously gone up too, to where, we're ordering, 6-7 pallets at a time sometimes. And with 3 locations, our sauce volume is going through quite a bit. So now that we've gotten to the point where we've gotten, that relationship has paid off, but now their levels are no longer where they used to be. Now it's times 3 of that, but they're still continuing to work with me. So it's like, I would never unless something drastically happened, kick somebody like that to the curb who's been with me since the beginning, because it's that important to me. And I have an open relationship to where if something does go wrong or something happens, I literally just call the owner up and say, hey, Phil, here's the issue I'm having. But they're truly amazing, and they are for the reason why we are where we're at.
Love it. I appreciate your time today.
Of course, man.
Can't wait to hit some food here. We ate last night. I ate way too much.
Yep.
I got home at the hotel. I was like in a bad place for a couple hours because everything looked so good. But we're gonna finish filming here in the other location with America's Best. That's all we got for this episode of MPTV. Make sure you own your sauce. Make sure you own your branding. Make sure you do unique things to stick out when it comes to hiring. That's all I got.
That's all I got.
See you later.
Cheers.